Music pulls us into that alignment and the awareness of the fluidity of our lives. It's a flow, right? We're tapping back into the flow, this stream that is truly from the divine all the way here into this physical dimension. And we can just come into the present state by altering our breath pattern. When we're listening to certain types of music, it has an influence on our breath pattern. How many times have you heard a song and just gone, oh, I got it? Hello there. Welcome back. Welcome back to the Art of Awakening podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Sue Morter, and today we have with us an amazing man whom I love dearly, a distinguished author and composer and an expert in the field of music and its impact on well-being. So you might know that as sound healing and vibrational frequency in terms of really transforming our state of consciousness. And we definitely have a visionary in that department with us today. He is a visionary composer and a sound expert, celebrated for his Grammy Award-winning production 69 Freedom Special with Malott, and with over 30 years at the intersection of music and healing, this man comes to you with a boatload of information and quality conversation that will literally be life-changing for you. So Barry's expertise seamlessly bridges scientific innovation and artistic expression. And for those of you that have been plugging into our podcast, you know that that is exactly where I love to dance. So you'll understand why we are fast friends in just a few moments. I just want to share a little bit more about him with you. He's had collaborations with leaders like Dr. Daniel Amen and Dr. Joe Dispenza and Dave Osprey, highlighting the powerful role of music in enhancing emotional and cognitive health. Barry and I have been in conversation with doing the same inside of Morter Institute. So I look forward to that, and you will too after you hear what he has to say today. He has coined the term acousto-ceuticals for his innovative products that merge sound with health benefits. His music is utilized in hospitals and health environments, offering a variety of benefits. And he also specializes in music branding, creating sonic signatures that amplify corporate and personal missions, which is all about how sound vibration carries us through our lives in really, truly phenomenal ways. His contributions include producing ambient soundscapes for best-selling authors such as Shirley MacLaine, Anita Moorjani, and Neil Donald Walsh, with compositions reaching billboards of top 10 New Age albums as he's gone along. His music also features prominently in major films and TV shows. Committed to education, Barry offers courses on the therapeutic applications of music and shares his expertise through his book, The Secret Language of the Heart. Engaging with Barry Goldstein means embracing the transformative power of sound to enhance well-being, productivity, storytelling, etc., through the universal language of music. So please welcome with me Barry Goldstein. Barry, hello, and welcome.
Dr. Sue, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here and engage in this conversation with you. It's exciting for me.
Absolutely. You know, we've had some awesome conversations over the years about what happens when sound vibration starts to really move into one's perceptive environment, whether they can hear it, whether they can feel it. It's all having an impact. And I would love for you to share a little bit of your personal journey, how you got here, what sparked your interest in music, and how that led you into the idea of music as healing. Just what do you got? Share with us.
Sure. I'll give you like the brief synopsis. I won't go back as far as third grade, but But yeah, I was in a house where there was always music around, and that encouraged me to play. My mom played by ear. My dad was always singing. I grew up in a Jewish household. Music was a nice hobby, but what are you going to do for a living? And by the time I was 28, I had what I call an awakening, and was a producer at the time. I was already working with major record labels and a host of, well-known people in the music field, and I hit a point where I lost my love for music and creating a 4-minute pop song in 50 hours of time in the studio, I started to get burnout.
Yeah.
And I asked myself, how could I move from composing music and move back to my heart and decomposing with music? So it was basically an experiment for my own healing process. And I remember looking online and typing in music and the heart, seeing what I would come up with. And what I found was that our hearts beat at a relaxed state at about 60 beats per minute. So that became my starting point, knowing that we have a metronome that we work with in music, and we have a metronome in our physical body, which is our heart. What would happen if I synchronize the two of these? And I set my metronome to 60 beats per minute, and I started to take these hour-long journeys, which was the opposite of this very, very tedious, very specific, kind of thing that I was doing in pop music. And I just kind of loosened the boundaries of it. So and allow the music to come through me and allow myself to connect with something beyond myself. And I started moving to these relaxed meditative states in the process of. This became a series of called ambiology that I thought no one would listen to because it didn't have any melody and it was very ambient. And, people started using it for a host of things, delivering children into the world, their parents with Alzheimer's, dental offices. And all of a sudden it was like, oh man, I'm kind of going down this different path here. And this was right around the same time that I worked with Les Paul to achieve a Grammy for Best Rock Instrumental of 2005. So there was kind of this fork in the road. Which way do I want to go? And I chose the way of healing with music, knowing that I'd someday circle back to sharing this in mainstream. And that's kind of where we're at.
It is so amazing that when we begin to discover that space between the notes, that spaciousness that is so present in the ambient music sounds that we hear in spas or in underneath meditations. I certainly use them in my meditations. It allows for the mind to rest in the spaces in between. And I love that you came upon it from a totally different realm of music. You became curious from your own internal experience, which I also want to hear a little bit about. And where it took you was into this intersection where healing happens as it relates to the human heart and as it relates to our very existence here in this dimension. So please tell us a little bit about the awakening piece, that part of what happened for you that, here you are, a successful musician going down this path, living in the dream in that way, and something else called you, something else pulled you into where we meet here today. And I know that our listeners would be very interested in relating to or hearing your story, because every individual is going to have some sort of opening in the course of their lives. And if they're paying attention, they will catch it, and it will be transformative in their entire life experience. It can be life-changing, in fact. And so I always somebody says the words awakening, I'm going to go back and say, okay, tell us a little bit about that piece. Because
there's the gumbo, right?
Yeah, it's an opening. So anything you would share about that?
Sure. I mean, it was completely unexpected. Most of my life growing up, I thought I was agnostic because my father was agnostic, and we go within our family ancestry until we know something different. And knowing something different doesn't mean in our thinking mind. It's truly the opposite of that. It's knowing without knowing. And that's exactly what happened. I couldn't have prepared myself for it, but I was on the way home from a weekend upstate New York, and I had taken a nap, and I opened my eyes, and I was going down the Mid-Hudson River, coming from upstate New York, and there was a beam of light that literally was this beautiful sun that was just like bouncing off the waters. And I opened my eyes, and that shot literally through my heart. And there was this knowing that came with it. And that was like, I was connected to the water. I was connected to the sun. I had this experience of oneness that I've had several times. We could talk more about that because I've received it in dream state music that way. But I knew that there was something more, and that the other thing I 100% knew was that I was no longer agnostic.
Mm.
And from there, it just opened up this curiosity for everything. I started reading, books. I remember reading the Celestine Prophecy and Conversations with God and all these books. And it really just, I was like a child, curious for everything that I hadn't known before, because it was
Yeah.
a completely new path. And connecting to that is what I had brought into that studio that day when I started to decompose and utilize music in that way,
Mm.
was a connection to not what I knew, but connection to the unknown, to the field around me of unlimited possibilities that, I was tapping into, and bringing that source in with me to the creative process, which at the time I didn't know that I was doing. I didn't know that I was moving into heart coherence or brain coherence, which I was,
Mm.
because we weren't talking about that back then.
Yeah.
All I knew is there was this connection between my heart, the music, what was coming in through me, and what was going into the music. And
Mm.
that the music I knew was carrying all of that information. And music is a carrier of that information. It creates a field of its own for the listener. So
Mm.
that was where the awakening became the continue awakening. Even to this day, learning new things and keeping that curiosity of not knowing is what makes everything fun and worthwhile on a daily basis.
Yes, so you tapped the knowing behind the intellectual mind. You tapped the field of possibilities and are allowing that to stream into your daily life. And that is exactly what the art of awakening is all about. This entire podcast is centered around people being able to find and identify when that is happening with them. Some people have big moments where, like you had an aha revelation, a moment that was poignant in your experience. I certainly have had major experiences, multidimensional, transformational experiences of a similar nature. And what I'm always encouraging people to do is to realize that this is happening when you're moved by anything. The beauty of, we just had a big snowfall, and when you're moved by the beauty of that, or you're moved by the light dancing on the water, or you're moved by music in a particular moment, there's a reason. And the movement isn't just moving you emotionally, it's moving you from your thinking mind into presence, into this pure presence. And that is what we are awakening to in this life, to the true nature of us, which is consciousness presencing itself here in this dimension in human form. So I'm thrilled to hear that this is your experience and your come from. And I know this about you before you ever said it, because when we met and when I first heard your music and we were speaking together at events, I could feel that you were attuned, that you were aligned with something that was more than the educated mind regarding musical notes and the
Thank
cadence
God, right?
you're supposed to flow, right? And so, that's the beauty of it. And so thank you for being here. And I hope that we get to hear a little bit of your goods before our time is over today, just to give people a little bit of an experience of you in all forms, above and beyond just the why, but the what of it all as well.
Yeah, and
So
one thing too I'd love to unpack just like for a second is
yeah,
that something that I learned from that, from that whole awakening. And you said, some people have big moments and we all have it in different ways. What I learned that is the small moments are the big moments as well. Like this isn't just something like that's reserved for musicians and artists. That this
right.
is the same process that we bring into our everyday life and our situations that come around, is bringing in source, God, the universe, whatever you choose to call it, into everything we create. And we're constantly creating in
Yeah.
every moment. You are literally creating the day, for yourself and everyone you interact with, from, smiling for the bank teller or making the waitress laugh. That if you look at everything as a co-creation and that you're inviting God into everything that you do, it ripples out from that into mission and legacy. It's a way of life, and it's an awareness. It's not just something, as you said, that's intellectual.
Yeah.
It's something that's in creation is in every moment because we're constantly connecting with Creator, who
Yeah.
never stops creating. So that's, for me, that's the key, is implementing that on a daily practice. The creation is always, about creating in harmony and creating an intention. All these terms that we know musically, moving into sync, beating to the sound of your own drummer. All of these sayings that are musical apply to our lives.
Yes.
And that's what I love about music. It's signs and messages constantly.
It's a flow, right? We're tapping back into the flow, this stream that is truly from the divine all the way here into this physical dimension. And we each are a version of that stream, that streaming. And music pulls us into that alignment and the awareness of the fluidity of our lives, which allows for grace to unfold in our own creative, efforts or our ideas as we're setting our intentions or having to hold steadfast to what we've decided that this day or this life or this year or whatever it is can be for us. And then life shows up in a very different way from what we're intending. To have the wherewithal to remain singularly focused on that heartfelt intention and what it is that you truly desire is facilitated in many ways. And music is definitely one of them. And I'm thrilled to have you here as part of the support of all of that for our listeners. We are definitely exploring this art of awakening in our lives, each and every one, no matter what our background is or what our intentions are or our goals that we have, the image or the desire that we have for our lives to unfold in. It is a flow, and as we can find the fluidity of that flow, it will unfold. It's when we decide that we're a separate self having to make it all happen for ourselves as an isolated entity that it becomes rigid and hard and brittle. And so I know when
Absolutely.
you were before we got started, you were warming up a little bit in the music, and it's instant. So I'm looking forward to getting to that part of our time together here as well. But first, I want to hear something about your musical nutrition and your acousto-ceuticals. So tell me what this is.
Well, we nourish ourselves 3 times a day, most of us anyway, to bring more energy to our body and to replenish ourselves physically. So this is something that we're all aware of. And we know that if we create a program where we're bringing in nourishment, it's going to help us in terms of our life. We'll be able to apply it to our mission, to our legacy, to everything else. But most of us don't think of music as nutrition. And so for me, imagine what could happen if you started to navigate your energy the way that you wanted to, just as you do with food. And instead of having random experiences where music happens to you and you have these powerful effects, what would happen if you became the DJ of your own life and you were literally programming your day and nourishing yourself with music, starting your day with music at the beginning of your day, like you're breaking the fast as you do when you're eating in the morning, you're breaking your fast when you're waking up and you haven't listened to anything in 8 hours. You haven't heard anything except for in dream state. What's the first piece of music that you want to listen to at the beginning of your day? For lunch, when you replenish yourself, what do you need in your day? Where are you right now? Where do you want to go? And what piece of music is going to take you there? And that's going to replenish you, whether you need to listen to a calming piece of music or you have a meeting where you want to engage. You need to listen to some drumming music and get up and dance, whatever it is. And then in the evening, I think of the evening kind of like as a sweet dessert at the end of your day, to give yourself self-love and to nourish yourself and to connect to gratitude so that you can cleanse yourself of your day, listening to music at about 60 beats per minute. And about an hour before you go to sleep at night, you're listening to music that's low and slow, so you can actually calm your brain waves down. We're in high beta most of the day, and you want to bridge your day so that you're moving through those brain waves and getting to delta. You don't want to just go from high beta and crash in to delta, which a lot of us do. So bridging down and going into alpha, and then going into theta, and then going into delta. And music allows us to do that. You know, it entrains with the music. You start to get out of the thinking mind, you get moving to the heart. And as you move into heart coherence, these smooth and orderly rhythms also affect your brain waves. So studies are showing that when we move into these coherent states, you're producing more alpha brain waves as well. So this interaction between heart and brain and is opening up an exciting new field of what we're calling neurocardiology, where we're realizing these two have an effect on each other, not just mentally and emotionally and spiritually, but on a physical level. So this is how we nourish ourselves musically. And it creates implementation, a program of actually scheduling your music. Imagine looking at your schedule and say, oh, I'm going to schedule a piece of soft music right here. I'm going to put in the piece of music I want. And then scheduling it in for lunch, what the music is. And now you have a go-to if you have challenges in your life that are draining your energy, taking you off purpose. You have ways you can do that. I call them 5-minute vacations that you literally can come in and reprogram and nourish yourself musically. So that's what musical nourishment is.
Oh, beautiful. So I think it really bears revisiting this idea that when we have certain aspects of our lives that are in the forefront, there is a stress, or there is a deadline, or there is pressure, or there is a reverberation from something that didn't go so well last week or yesterday or earlier today, that there are actually things that we can do from a musical standpoint that can help adjust our brainwave activity, help adjust our coherence in the world and in our lives, and get us back on track in a manner that we can think straight, that we can be present, that we can not have to think or ruminate over what has happened, or worry into the future about what's coming or how to prepare, or is it ever going to happen. We can just come into the present state by altering our breath pattern and altering our brainwave patterns. And so when we're listening to certain types of music, it has an influence on our breath pattern. It will, how many times, you listeners or viewers, how many times have you heard a song and just gone, oh my God, oh my God, that's it. That's the one. That literally it's changing your state without you having to have the mental wherewithal to do so. There's something else at play, and we're collaborating, we're soliciting, we're utilizing these tools to help make it easier for us to entrain ourselves. And then what I suggest you do is that when you're listening to some of Barry's music, and it pulls you into that relaxed state, that you memorize what that state feels like in the body that the music has facilitated, so that if you're ever in a place where you don't have access to playing the exact right song to get you in that state, that you've memorized what it is. So you utilize it as a teaching tool to generate some signature vibrations in your own system that you have access to 24/7. Now, today with apps and iPhones and all those, other ways that people have access to anything instantly, that's a little bit less of a concern. But really what I'm interested in is us making the connection of our ability to generate these states on our own. And if you can align with something like Barry's tools to train and entrain you to have the perfect environment in which you can memorize how it feels inside your system, with one eye on the inside and one ear on the music, you can facilitate your own ability to generate these states internally. Independently, in a manner that allows for us to truly feel the mastery of our own life experience. So beautiful, Barry. That sounds fabulous. So tell us a little bit about specific healing experiences that you have examples that you've seen or witnessed or experienced yourself that have happened physically or mentally or emotionally for people along the way? Do you have access to the benefits of the
Oh,
outcomes
sure.
of people listening? Yeah.
Yeah, and actually, expanding on what you just said about memorizing, there's a lot of studies around music creating autobiographical memories. Now, where this becomes really powerful and we see amazing healing is within Alzheimer's patients, because where they cannot break through when someone asks them about a specific memory, like your uncle, do you remember Christmas in 1961? And there is no interaction, but if you play White Christmas, all of a sudden, those memories come back to the person, and through different pathways and neuroplasticity of accessing those memories in a different way. And so it becomes very important when we're younger to know what songs are moving us, because literally this can become our playlist that might be a lifeline in 50 years from now. And we've seen this in not just playing the music, but even if I ask someone, well, what's your happy song? And they think about that. Like for me, it's the Jackson 5, The Love You Save. Now, as soon as I start thinking about that song, I don't even have to hear it. I can already tap into the energy of it. And that's what they're showing through fMRI studies as well, that these, even thinking about a song that moves you into happiness can start opening and creating the benefits of that, which of course we induce our physical pharmacy through music as well. And when we find reward and pleasure in a song, we're releasing dopamine. When we are moving out of stress, we are decreasing our cortisol. So it's not just something that happens subjectively. There's objective things that happen in the physical body when we are engaging with music. And this is not something new. Like you talked about streaming, right? How we're streaming. So streaming is nothing new, right? We were streaming consciousness and streaming through music and flow states thousands of years ago.
Right.
Technology is catching up to spirituality, and even we see it in drumming circles, where people come in with PTSD and anxiety, and through one session of a drumming circle, they are literally producing 40 times the alpha brainwaves that they were before they came in. Chanting the Kirtan Kriya, the Satan Nama. New studies by the Alzheimer's organization are showing it's actually increasing telomere length. So how that applies to longevity. I did it with my 91-year-old father-in-law when he was going through a crisis and getting divorced at 89. We would walk around the block and chant Satanama and come back, and his blood pressure was lowered.
Yeah.
Sleeping at night, I mean, music just can get us there very quickly. And using it for cancer patients to reduce nausea while they're taking chemotherapy. These are all studies and benefits that we see happening and constantly evolving. Chanting Om, how it creates limbic deactivation, which our limbic system, when it's deactivated, we are a sense of inner peace. So I'll share one personal story with you talking about Om, because when my dad was passing, now this is the same guy again, right? Music's a nice hobby. What are you going to do for a living, right? Grew up in Brooklyn, and literally I'm with my dad on his bedside, and he's supposed to be going into hospice the following day, which he swore he never wanted to do. And I found myself alone with him for one of the first times that we were together during this whole process. Wow. And I heard an inner guidance saying to chant to him, because literally his eyes were moving around. He was very incoherent. I can tell he was in a place of fear. And I remember thinking, I'm not going to chant to my dad. This is the guy who listened to Sinatra and Dean Martin, like chanting Om is not going to be on his playlist,
Yeah.
And
Right.
I closed my eyes and I said, you know what? I'm just going to place my hand on top of his head. And I found myself moving to the top of the bed and placing my hands on his head. And I started to chant Om. And as I was doing it, I can feel the warmth on his head, beginning to get warmer and warmer. I kept chanting. And when I finally felt like I was complete and that there was a flow of energy that was moving from his body, right? And making the space for his crown chakra to be open, that bridge between the physical and the ethereal opening. I opened my eyes and my dad was staring like straight at me, completely coherent. And we were able to have like this last conversation, although he couldn't speak. I was able to talk to him and ask him to squeeze my hand if he understood. And later that evening, my rest of my family came to see him, including my nephew, who my dad was trying to hold on to go to his bar mitzvah. And when he walked in the room, my dad literally, his eyes lit up and he actually smiled. That's how present he was. So just by the chanting of Om and the intention of trying to assist him in moving to a lighter state to transition, and he transitioned later that morning, around 5 in the morning. And so this is real, these studies translate into real life because they've been happening for thousands of years. Music's the oldest biohack. Why do we chant Om? Is it like just a new age buzzword that people, it's our way of showing how woo we are, like in corporate environments and in mainstream? No, it's not. It's the sound of everything in the universe, past, present, and future. And it is indestructible. And that, bringing that into a sacred place where someone is passing is the most sacred thing that we could do, is be someone when they're transitioning, and using sound in this way, to create a rite of passage in someone's life is very powerful.
Yeah, so beautiful. What a gift. What a gift for him, for you to be able to provide that sort of stability for him to enhance the grace in his transition. The Om also takes us into the space where he was returning to. The O of the Om opens our consciousness, and the M of the Om brings that consciousness into form. And so as we're repeating it over and over and over again, we're moving into the formless and into form, and into the formless and into form. And so we're literally piercing through the veils. We're dissolving the veils of reality and allowing ourselves to be in greater and greater expansive states of consciousness. And so the ease with which you provided the sound generated an ease with which he was able to move from form to formless and back again. And as we do, we are clarified and we are more centered. And so let us not just leave the Om for our exiting days, right, folks, listeners. Let's bring it into our day on a regular basis. You also mentioned Satanama, and each of these tones moves the energy up and down the channel, the central channel that I speak about in the things that I'm teaching, in a specific way. And as we put them together, those movements that are generated by the sounds, specifically sa, ta, na, ma, has an opening, an uplifting, and a deepening, and a revealing of our own true soulful presence in this realm, into this world. So the studies make perfect sense that they bring people into coherence. They change blood pressure. They change heart rate. They change our presencing of ourselves. It brings us into this moment with our lucid, full faculties, rather than running on our educated mind or our strategic mind that is trying to figure out and calculate safety measures and how I should be operating or how I need to navigate. It pauses that and allows something bigger to come up from underneath the thinking mind and reveal. And when it does, it has a stilling effect on our perceptive self. And the byproduct of that is we have greater access to more wisdom, more capacity, and our ability to begin again, or to forgive, or to presence ourselves in such a way that we don't have to be defensive, guarded, and protective. There's so many benefits, so many benefits to using sound in our lives, in in these ways. And so thank you for bringing those things into our conversation. I'm wondering, before too much time gets away, I want to hear maybe if we can plug into some of your great gift, and if there's anything you'd like to say about that to set us up for that, that our listeners can really drop in and breathe in such a manner that can allow for them to benefit from what you're about to give us.
Yes, absolutely. I'm glad you segued that, because I think it's important to know that music isn't just something that's happening to you, it's also something that's happening in you as well. So there's a physical aspect of this as well. When you're receiving music, it's not just with your ears, but it's with every cell in your body as well. So I invite you to tap into your inner symphony, which is your heartbeat and your breath, and connect to like your own unique vibration. Think of this as a way to come home to you, no matter what's going on in your day, that you have the ability, you have what I call your own heart code. And this is your own signature that your soul has. And it's a way that just by placing your hands on your heart and going inward while you're listening to this piece of music, you'll feel a connection and access to that, and a way to tap back into yourself and resynchronize to you. And I have no idea what I'm going to be playing, because I'm going to just be bringing this through for whoever's listening in the moment, and whoever's going to be listening on replays of this as well, that I invite the divine in to co-create with me for the good of everyone listening, for the highest capacity of healing, whatever that may be. And then just gently place your hands on your heart, breathe in and out of your heart slowly, and breathe in love, release your stress, and then just allow yourself to tune in. That's really it's what it's about. It's about tuning in to whatever it is that I'm playing for you. So
Beautiful. Beautiful. And so those of you that are regular listeners to the Art of Awakening, you would know that breathing lower in the body and slower in the body is always going to allow you to receive more of what is available to you in any moment. And so just want to invite you to that, as well as being aware of the whole central channel that we work with as well. So, and for those of you that are just joining us new, you're not going to miss a darn thing. Let's just listen to Barry with an open heart and breathing in the ways that he has instructed. Okay, Barry, take it away.
great. So as I get set up, just you can move into that process of placing your hands on your heart, slowing down. It might take me a minute to just get going here.
Sure.
And
I'll speak with everyone while we're doing that. So one of the things that as we're waiting for Barry to get set up, that if you can just bring your breath into a slow, deep, low belly breath, and a slow inhale, maybe a count to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8, and exhale the same, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And as such, just stay in this space. Remain open and know that there is nothing to do, nothing to become. You are already that. We utilize these tools to allow ourselves to become aware of the truth of who we are. Oh, incredibly beautiful. A beautiful, beautiful space. Thank you so, so much. It
My
is, it is instant that we move from this thinking, analyzing, even thinking, trying to learn something from the podcast, from that state of trying to this presence of being. There are so many massive amounts of energy that we're stimulated to move in collaboration, in a dance that was happening through the system. You know, I tap into the group consciousness of our listeners when I'm speaking and when I'm teaching and so forth, and just sensing and feeling what is happening in the collective as these sound vibrations are moving from one frequency to another and rolling into another. It gives guidance to coherence. It gives guidance of returning from what I refer to as the splat, where we're disconnected mind, body, and breath, and we're not in our integrated connective selves. It instantly begins to move and gather these aspects of ourselves back together again. And I'm sure that the listeners were plugging into that on their own, but it is such a joy to be able to bring this to everyone and then have this conversation about it. So, when you were playing, Barry, what were you feeling today?
So what I was feeling, there was like a kind of a message coming through at the same time that that we complicate things. So keeping it simple and pure was the simple, pure, and childlike,
Mm.
and giving ourselves permission to receive was a big part of that. So even though we know, and no matter how much work we do, there's always more expansion and awakeness that can happen. And sometimes it's just letting yourself know that it's okay to receive. As givers, as healers, we give a lot.
Mm.
But giving ourselves permission to be completely vulnerable and to receive. And I was doing the same. As I was playing, I was allowing myself to receive, and letting that reception come into the music as well, and being okay with keeping it simple and pure, because that was what I was feeling was coming through.
Beautiful. That is really my mantra in life: is fun and simple and easy, filled with grace. That is it.
I
And
love it.
so we want to translate this into, for you, it's music and your hands coming to the keyboard and allowing that to pour through you. For someone else, it might be gardening and developing a beautiful space for themselves. For someone else, it might be while they're cooking dinner that they open and allow this same sensation to be pouring through them in a moment like that. And what I really love to encourage people to recognize is that the beauty of this moment is available when there is a challenge at work. It's available when there is an effort happening in a relationship that isn't going well. It is available when your children are upset or your parents aren't understanding something, or whatever the case may be. And if we can learn these signature vibrations and allow the stream to flow through, this continuum to flow through us in this way, on a regular basis, like you're saying, do it nutritionally, do it to nurture yourself on a regular basis, so that in those trying moments you have the availability and the accessibility to this state even then, to open in your physical system in a way that you allow this sensation to be playing out into your day on an ongoing basis, no matter what the external environment is bringing. It's about mastering our internal flow, regardless of our external circumstances. And that is mastery at hand. So, Barry, where can people reach you, and what are you up to? How else can they find more of you?
The easiest way is just through barrygoldsteinmusic.com, which acts as a hub to pretty much everywhere else, to my courses and also to a lot of the things that I'm doing. A lot of my music is on Spotify and iTunes and all those places where you listen to music, so I'm not hard to find. And yeah, I'll be coming out with a lot of new projects this year, new collaborations. I hope that we are one of them.
Yes, I can
as we
guarantee that's going to happen.
as we heartstorm more, right? This is the
Yeah,
year for that, so I'm
yes.
looking forward to that. And I'm also gearing a lot towards different demographics that are not as much talked about in the sound healing community. So for children and seniors,
Mm.
like how do we allow them to benefit at earlier ages of this, so we can teach them this before they even get into school, right? And for those seniors who are not really talked a lot about in terms of sound, how can they be utilizing music, sound, and vibration, the last chapters of their life, to continue legacy and to move into an open and expansive state to whatever contracts they still have with loved ones and relatives and everyone else. So I'm kind
Mm.
of looking at that full circle of life, of
Mhm.
birthing, and birthing and moving on to the next plane, as areas of focus, because I think we're in a beautiful place right now where people are getting this in the mainstream now, like in the demographics of everyone else. It's
Mhm.
kind of like the choir. We're finally
Mhm.
getting to that place where people are understanding how powerful sound is. We're seeing them in digiceuticals and nutraceuticals, and I've created something that's called acousto-ceuticals.
Thank goodness.
That, like I, right, that's low cost, non-invasive, it takes you into parasympathetic, right? So
Yeah.
they're getting it. How do we get to people who really need this, who are not being seen or heard within this, who can benefit from that? So that's where
Yeah.
I'm going.
Beautiful, beautiful. What a gift. Thank you so much for being here and for bringing your beautiful heart and your brilliant mind together with your amazing talent. What a great gift for our listeners. So thank you, and I encourage everyone to check out more of your music and get it playing in their homes and in their headphones and in their cars and everywhere that they can, to surround themselves with the perfect epigenetic environment where we are generating love on the outside so that it can tap the same on the inside, so that we dissolve the veil all the more easily. So thank you, Barry. Thank you for joining us in the Art of Awakening. And all of you listeners, thank you for joining us here on the Art of Awakening. And remember to subscribe and share this episode with your family and friends. And so until next time, I'm Dr. Sue Morter. Many, many blessings to you all. Bye-bye for now.
Thank you, Dr. Sue.
Namaste.